Hey guys, happy Thursday. I think it's Thursday. It's good to see some of you guys are already here. I tried to give you a lot more warning this time around before going live that you guys could schedule around it or at least send me questions and stuff beforehand. But I chose a time that was after your workday for most of you guys. So hopefully that makes it easier. It's not in the morning or anything or lunchtime. So as always with these, I'm just going to answer your questions about training, anything you guys want advice on or questions answered, and you can just put them in the chat right here. Let me know if at any point you can't hear me or see me or anything like that, and I will fix the problem hopefully. But yeah, we're going to get started here. So I have a few topics prepared while we kind of let the questions roll in. But you guys can ask me about strength, running, how to balance the two. You can ask me about warm-ups, cool downs, types of workouts you should be doing. I know a lot of us are starting to sign up for those fall races. So if you are lost as to where to begin on this, and then I'm also going to share with you guys a little bit about what I've been working on in the way of training plans. And I'm writing some training plans that I'll hopefully be able to share with you guys this summer. So yes, just let me know if you guys can't hear or see or anything, and we'll get going. So first thing I want to start with, guys, this summer is if you guys are starting to train in the heat and you're not used to that, perfect, great. If you guys are not used to the heat or haven't really been in it since last summer, which is most of us, remember that the beginning of your training in the summer, even if you've been running through the winter and everything, is going to feel shitty. So it's not that you're getting worse. It's not that you've been, slacking in your last few weeks of training. It's likely just that your body is now adjusting to the heat and working much harder to combat that and keep you stable. This will feel like you're slowing down. This will feel like you're just a bit more lightheaded and you got to figure out more on your hydration. It's going to matter a lot more how you plan your day around your workouts. And for a lot of people, the earlier you get out there, obviously that just takes care of a lot of the problems, but it still doesn't, for a lot of people, matter that much. Even 6 a.m. here in Nashville in July can be brutal. So really staying on top of things outside of your running time can really set you up for a nice, good run in the heat that doesn't knock you out completely. So I will start answering some questions here. Awesome. Do you think collagen supplements help with joint issues? That's a good question. I have gone back and forth with supplements. I believe in them, and I believe that if you're not super focused on your diet and getting everything from real foods and the amounts you need, it's a good way to come in and make sure you're getting it done on a daily basis. I've heard mixed things with collagen, and I think it might come down to the quality of the supplement and what else is in there. As a girl, maybe it's just like I've more seen it from women, but a lot of people have had like really bad acne with some collagen supplements. So that's kind of steered me away from that. I think it can have help with joint issues, and I think it comes down to the quality of the product. I know a lot of supplements are kind of tried and tested by certain institutions that make them a higher quality. They're probably more expensive. So get the best one that you can for the price you can afford. But I haven't personally used collagen supplements. Okay. Hey, Coach Holly, I've done 5 marathons and a 31-mile ultra now. How should I prep before going into 50-mile race? Really good. You've already done those. I feel like a large chunk of the hard stuff is done. Now I would really focus on doing hard back-to-back days, even doing an evening run into a next morning run, both of them being long. So pick a weekend for that. But that's going to be the closest feeling to the 50-miler because you're not going to be fresh legs, obviously. Once you hit that 6-7 hour mark, and you have to keep going for another several hours, that's where things start to turn in the ways of ups and downs. So in a marathon, you might experience a minute or two bad, comes up a minute or two good, and kind of up and down until you finish the race, but you know you're going to get through it. I would say in the 50-miler, you have more experience of sitting down in a low for, a while, and different circumstances can make that feel better. You come upon another runner that's actually struggling too. And I've had that before where they helped me get out of that rut, or I had to significantly slow down, or I had to mix up what I was eating because something wasn't sitting well. Giving yourself more opportunity to find those pockets of kind of downtime that you come out of will give you the strength and perseverance in the 50-miler. So I find I get close to that if I do a long run in the second half of one day and then a long run in the first half of the day after that, kind of pairing those together. That's a good way to test yourself and get you in the headspace of running for several hours. Hopefully that helps. Do you gain more fitness if you run in the heat, more red blood cells created? That's a good question. I would say from the fitness standpoint, absolutely. Increased fitness comes from making your body do the hard thing in the hard conditions, and it's adjusting and it's adapting. So improving fitness comes from putting yourself in those situations, basically giving it opportunity to teach itself how to persevere through and not quit. And that raises your overall fitness baseline. As far as more red blood cells created, I don't know about that specifically, but I would look into it. I know that there's so much research with that as far as sauna, cold plunge, and all of that stuff. So I'm curious if it's similar. I know a lot of people were talking about this last summer in the running space as far as like hot weather running. Do you get similar benefit to when you're sitting in a sauna or really in specific hot temperatures as far as blood flow to injured areas, healing properties, kind of that detox as well? I'm sure it's partially true. I'm just not positive, and I don't quote me on that. Keep the questions coming, guys. This is great. If you're just joining us, thanks for coming to the Q&A. I'm just answering your training questions tonight. Okay. When training for a marathon, how many days a week do you recommend strength training? I'm aiming for 4 hours. I haven't heard someone talk about it in hours, but I like that. I would say twice a week baseline for sure. I have a video coming out soon that is about how to put the strength training into your running plan if you don't already do so. Twice a week for sure, in an hour session each is great. If you're brand new to strength training, I would say targeting specific areas that I know will help improve your running if that's what your goal is. So making a block of legs or making a block of glute work or core work or something that can happen in 15 or 20 minutes, that's going to specifically, you're going to feel that in your next run because it's going to be turned on, you're just going to be using it, and it will eventually get stronger as well, especially if you add more resistance. 4 hours is great too. I know a lot of people like me, I don't do CrossFit anymore, but when I did, I was doing CrossFit, 4 or 5 days a week plus running. So that was just, I knew I was getting it in, but it wasn't always heavy lifting. So just know sort of generally what the purpose of each strength session is and make sure that it's leading to benefit and not taking away from your running. Okay. Best resources, books to learn how to create our training plan. This is another part of what I wanted to talk about today. So I am in the process of writing training plans that I'll be selling. So you guys can buy them and see them, and I'll have run only and then run plus strength. As I've been doing research for this and seeing what's out there already, which I already kind of generally knew, I think that there's a lot of people that are really influential in the space that are really good at training themselves. And then when it comes to writing a plan, it is much harder to copy and paste that onto individuals. And as a coach of, real people that I go train in person and stuff, I see that even people who I might put in the same category of type of runner are not going to use the same plan the same way. So Hal Higdon is so popular. Like we always call him the kind of the GOAT when it comes to training plans. And we know that the mileage build there has been proven to work. But as far as resources or books of any kind go, when it comes to training and plans, make sure that anything you're reading or looking at feels modifiable to you, your schedule, and your current starting level. Because there's nothing worse than starting something and then feeling like you're not capable of even completing the first or second week. So starting from a place that you are going to be able to check that box, say, I did the workout, I did the run, and moving to the next day with confidence versus feeling like you're constantly just scraping to catch up. I would say that. As far as motivation, I love just listening to good podcasts with people who have done really amazing things in running. I think that we can take inspiration from people like Courtney Dauwalter. I love David Goggins. A lot of you guys know that. Cam Hanes, and so many people, of course, that just Sally, just so many people that do really incredible things and have a good way of motivating you to try that relative to what you already do. A lot of them are professionals and they have coaches and they can literally run and work out all day. So also taking that into account. But if it helps get you off the couch to go try the hard thing, I think that's worth it as a resource. That was a lot of stuff, but you get the point. I think use stuff, listen to things, but don't take it as the Bible. Make sure that you are modifying it to fit you from where you are right now. Okay, let's keep going here. Training in high humidity is more like training at altitude. In both cases, it's harder to get oxygen. I totally agree. I did a video on this, maybe it was 2 summers ago. And I talked about, I used the heat training to prep for anything at high altitude. When I was going to go do the 50K in Mammoth, really high up. We were going to be like 11,000 feet in California. That was a really big part of my training through the summer, was just being in tough conditions, really hard to breathe, really hard to maintain pace, even on flats in really thick humidity and high heat. And that totally compared to when I was up in the thin air on the mountain. Okay, what's your take on rucking? I love doing hills of the pack. I love rucking. I think that's an amazing way of being on your feet. Time on feet is so important as it pertains to training for a race or just getting good at endurance. It's difficult. So if you have weight on your back and you're moving and you're, continuing to go when you're tired, I think that's extremely beneficial mentally. Obviously, physically, if you're in good form, you're not doing it in poor form and have your back kind of blown out from the weight. As long as you're keeping your hips forward and staying strong, I think it's really good for the core as well. Just make sure you're rolling out your shoulders and everything. The traps can get super tight and kind of worn down from wearing weight like that. So just make sure it's well distributed as best you can. When I'm training hard, I eat a lot more and end up putting on weight. How can I overcome this? It's really good to know what causes stress on your body, which stress can equal hunger. If you're really run down and you're doing a lot physically, and you might be lacking a little bit of sleep and maybe not getting enough water in, all those things together can leave you feeling like a bottomless pit. And while it's important to listen to our bodies and be intuitive when we eat and stuff like that, if you feel like you can never match your feeling of hunger, it's likely that things are a bit off, either hormonally or just the way that you're matching energy needs for what you're doing. And that doesn't necessarily mean calories. So that's why I say keeping the best type of body is one that's not under stress. So organized stress in the way of workouts is one thing, but if you are kind of operating at a base level of stress, whether it's work related, family, personal, whatever, or you can't really get to sleep at night because of that stress, and so the quality of your recovery is bad, you might find that you're almost having false hunger pangs in some ways, or the types of food that you are eating are not getting it done. You might be lacking protein. That's a big one that will make you feel more full. More fiber will help as well. And I love vegetables, but trying to eat some of them raw, I think, is a good thing, just to make you feel full, but also keep the body operating in a healthy way and keep it moving. Those things can really just help make you more in tune with what's going on, so it doesn't just feel like you're constantly answering to random hunger pangs. So more protein for sure, and then take a look at the rest of the lifestyle factors as well. Okay. I've been watching Nick Bare, and he talks about taking a massive dose of sodium before a long run and that there's a lot of benefit to it. What's your opinion on loading on sodium before a long run? I love sodium. I love the salt, the base salt. I use a shaker. It's like a little shaker. You lick your thumb and shake it on there and lick it off. I use that for all of my long runs, especially in the heat, obviously all my races. I cannot say I've loaded up on sodium prior to the run. I'm imagining it would be great. You're just kind of front loading it. I would make sure that you're really pairing that with a good bit of water, because I know when those things can be imbalanced, even for a small period of time before you're starting to sweat and get it all out, it might be a bit uncomfortable in the stomach, I would guess, but I could be totally wrong there too. I think everyone's different. He does so many extreme things. He's killing himself in the gym and running and everything so constantly that it's possible he is just burning everything at such a rate that it really doesn't sit for too long at that point. I don't think there's any downside to spreading it out through the run though either, if you find an easy way to do it. I know a lot of people have been asking about salt tabs, like capsules. And I personally, in the middle of a hot run or a race, would never want to try to get a pill down. So that's why I don't go for those. But if that's easy for you, go for it. Though licking the salt off when it's loose, I just keep it in my side pocket of my leggings. And that's just a really easy way to do it. And honestly, it gives you something to do if you're kind of struggling getting through that moment or whatever of the run. You can focus on doing your activity, which is getting the salt in. And I do 2 licks of that, like 2 thumbs of salt every 40 minutes or so. I would say that's about standard for heat or no heat if I'm doing anything long for sweating that much. Hopefully that helps. What's the best recent implementation in your lifestyle that made an improvement in your life, physical or mental, that you could share with us? Oh my God, I love that question. That is such a me question. Okay. I have a good one for this. I feel like the best thing I've done is, and this is great for fitness, this is great for lifestyle too, but it is separating what you can control from what you can't control. And that's a hard one because as somebody who loves control like me, who wants to have everything in order and I want it to go the way I expect it to go, the more you expect it to not and just batch things accordingly for that day, that hour, whatever it is, the more easily you can move forward and just make a plan as it stands. So the more you try to fight something or really make it true or really make it, whatever you're trying to prove to yourself or to somebody else, it gets so much more important so that if it doesn't go that way, it feels like that much more of a crushing blow. So I've realized that my homeostasis, what keeps me good through the day, is definitely feeling like I am going to be fine no matter what happens versus I will only be okay if this specific thing happens. Great example for any of you guys who have had a bad race, for example, like you tried a half marathon, it didn't go well, or like you had to stop because you hurt your ankle or you actually had a medical problem or something and you couldn't keep going, whatever. You might have, up until that race, had it set in your head, whether you knew it or not, that if the race goes well, then I'm worth something. I fulfilled my goal. I am good if I do it, and I am not good if I don't do it. Meaning, when you have to inevitably deal with the situation that wasn't expected, what's also come with that is now you also feel like a failure, which that was all set up by you in your head. You don't owe anyone anything. You would have liked to finish the race, but stuff happens and it happens for good reason. It teaches you things. So that's the biggest one recently, separating what I can control from what I can't control, personal as well, and just batching that in my head. And it leaves a lot more space for just being present, thinking about things in a fresh way and not getting so fixated. Hopefully that helps. You can tell I'm passionate about that. Okay, keep moving through here. Okay. Can you coach Jen back into doing another video? Jen's my sister, and she's a lawyer, and she does like law vlogs. And yes, she's on it. She's working on it. I really hope she gets back to it as well. Would you ever marry someone who didn't regularly exercise? Good question. Probably not. I dated someone once who did not regularly exercise and did eventually get into it, but it felt like it was my doing, and that wasn't fun either. I think it's more just a lifestyle thing. I think it's like if it's part of your life or it's not. And I don't even mean anyone needs to do anything crazy or long or like endurance stuff or anything like that, but just general taking care of yourself and having that built into your daily routine, I think it's just like a pillar of my life, and I would want it to be a pillar of the person's life who I'm with. Okay. Hi, Holly. Slow as fuck runner over here. How do I increase my overall speed? Currently following a 5K to 10K program, but it takes me forever to do a mile, 22 to 24 minute pace. Thanks. Okay. Vanessa asked this. Vanessa, I would say you probably just need to stay focused on a run walk that you actually can accomplish right now. So whatever that means to break it up as, you could do literally walking for 3 minutes, 15-second jog, walk for 3 minutes, 15-second jog, something where you're going to focus on walking faster first, making it so that walk, jog, whatever takes you less than the 22 to 24 combined for the mile. And then from there, we can start to increase the run time and decrease the walk time. But I think going out to struggle through whatever looks like a run to you just for the sake of it being a run and it's taking forever, I feel like that's not doing a lot for your confidence. And honestly, I'm thinking you might need to get just better at breathing deeper at a fast walk, which will then lead to higher fitness because you can be out there for a bit longer. And then we can add some more running back in. So I always say that we would love to just say we're all runners right off the bat, but a lot of people feel they can't say that if they're still walking. I just think you're working on building the fitness, and if it feels like you're plateaued week after week and nothing's really moving, I would say dial it back a little bit and focus on fast walking or maybe even some stair repeats. Short one set of stairs, just going up, coming down, taking a minute breather, up, down, minute breather. Improve the fitness from either fast walking or incline, and then you can start to up the running amount. And I feel like the pace will significantly decrease just because you're higher in fitness at that point. Just finished first 50K and want to try a 50 miler in a few months. 50K took 6:53 and had gotten pretty tough towards the end, but feel good about a week later. Just how much harder is the 50 miler? Good question. 50 miler is where it really starts to get important that you don't miss cutoffs. I would say 50K, it depends on the course, but it's one of the last distances where I would say they give you a pretty reasonable amount of time that you can get through and finish it. 50 miler has a lot of cutoff points, I would say, where Actually, I did a 50 miler with my dad, and he was pulled. I think it was at mile 20. We did this Antelope Canyon race that was all in loose sand. So it was really tough. And I think he missed it by like 18 minutes, and he got into it with the race director actually. But they wouldn't let him keep going. And so the biggest thing when you go jump to that distance is that you need to be pretty sure that you can trust how fast you're going to be moving. So consistency is key. You explaining that at the end of the 50K, it was pretty rough. I would say try another 50K that's maybe more flat if that one wasn't, and see if you can work on more consistent hike paces whenever you move to a walk, whenever you take those breaks, and try to overall up that speed so you can depend on something across the whole thing. So it's not coming up and then totally bonking at the end, but you're steady throughout. That would give me more confidence that the 50 miler will feel a bit more predictable for you. The other thing too is obviously the temperatures are going to be a different factor here too, because you'll go with the sun up and you'll likely finish, after sundown or around sundown. And so it's kind of that cold to hot to cold kind of feeling. And you start to just mentally, it gets a little bit more in your head. You're just kind of sick of being out there. That was 50 miles was the first time I remember thinking like, I am sick of being out here, truly. But like I said earlier in the call today, you sit in that, you figure out how you're going to get out of it, and then you come back out and then repeat ups and downs, and you just work through it yourself, which is back to the other question we had, why it's important to look to other people for sources of motivation or understanding how other people find themselves out of those holes and what they've taught themselves, as far as tools for that. Okay. What do you think about adaptive workouts on a Garmin watch? I'm using it for marathon training. If I'm understanding that right, I think you're asking about basically it guesses what your output would be or your paces would be on certain workouts and like gives you a tempo workout or something based on that. I think that's right. If that is the case, I would say take everything with a grain of salt. It is doing its best to guess, but similar to how we talked about the heat, it doesn't know what other conditions are going on. It might not technically know unless you told it that you barely slept last night or that you haven't eaten properly today, or honestly, girls are on their cycle or something like that. Just all those factors that play in, the watch doesn't know. So sometimes it can feel like you are doing everything in your power to hit certain paces or required times for something, and you're barely making it, and it's making you feel bad about yourself. So it's good to push yourself, but sometimes these numbers are just nebulous, or they're just coming out of, they're isolated numbers. They're not including the whole picture. So keep that in mind for anything like that. I would say really any training plan that's a spreadsheet as well. Make sure you should modify, you should make it feel adaptable, and you should know if it's way, way off from what you're actually able to perform at that time. And that's just good for mental reasons as well. So you don't feel like you're always not stacking up to that. Okay. What are the values running helped you develop? What are your values in life? I would say the biggest thing is similar to the highs and lows I just talked about in races. I feel like life can be like a bunch of opportunities, even in one day, of you changing your perspective on something or using what you've already gained somewhere else to have a new perspective on a situation. So I just feel like I have a big stockpile now from running and workouts and tough times or tough moments within workouts, whatever, to now reflect on, because I'm still sitting here. I overcame all of that. And if I remember that, and I remember I've done that this many times over and over again, I can do it again if something else comes up that's difficult or unexpected. So I would say that. And then just sheer trust in myself, confidence in myself really has come from running and workouts and endurance, signing up for things that scare me, things that make me nervous. You get up for a race and you're just like, oh my gosh, this could go really well or it could not. You've planned as best you can. But as I said, we don't have control over everything. So rolling with the punches, but being confident in the fact that you will figure out a way forward and just put one foot in front of the other. I think that's the beauty of running, honestly. I am a slow runner too, decided to try and increase my walking speed to 15 miles per hour. Keep my running intervals same pace as usual for now. Do you think inserting short strides in the run part would help? If you guys don't know what strides are, it's like a kind of a track warm up. It's starting slow and then you build up to high speed. It's usually used in the warm up and you then slow down from there. It's like 20 seconds at a time. Basically just push to your top form, top speed, and then back off. And then you do it again and back off. And it's a really good way to basically like practice running fast without having to hold that too long. And I think that's a really important piece of training that a lot of us miss. So I think strides are a really nice bite-sized way to practice what it might feel like to run a bit faster. And I say the form stuff to remind you that getting faster at the expense of your form is never a win, because yes, you might be getting faster for that minute or that mile or whatever. If it's taking a toll on your body, which in running it really can, because running is a lot of force on the body. And if it's not done well, especially a few runs in a row or several months of that in a row, it can create bad habits and bad compensations that lead to overall injury, overall overuse, like things that can really go south really quickly. And it's because we're setting things in place as the standard. So I used to do this a lot. I would say, I'm going to run fast on this run. It doesn't matter what it looks like, but I'm just going to go fast on this one. Then I'll go back to better running when I slow it down. You start to lose the whole part where you actually ran well, and it all kinds of falls apart together if you start to let yourself. So I would say strides are a nice way to practice still running well, hips forward, all the stuff I give you guys in videos. But you can do that at faster force. You're really pushing from the hips, you're opening up, heart rate's coming up, and then you slow it down. You can keep using it as practice and work it in. And I think overall that can help you increase your speed. Trying some tempo workouts where you increase the amount of time you run fast for, but promising yourself you're going to have the reset, rests in between to keep everything looking good to the end of the workout. How's the F45 gym owner's health? Cheering for him. Oh yeah, I made a vlog couple months ago maybe about my F45 gym's owner with stage 3 cancer. As far as I know, he's doing okay. I know he was like sort of rehabbing, getting back into the gym, and I think there was maybe more rounds of chemo going on. But as I said in that vlog, I was super inspired that he was in the gym at all so soon after the diagnosis. But cancer is a crazy, crazy thing. It affects everybody so differently, and the treatment processes for it can be so debilitating that it's like, even if you have the green light to go work out, the fact that he had energy to do that is insane. So it's amazing what community can do. Let's all just be thankful for our health currently. All right. Any other questions? You guys keep dropping them here. We'll go for a few more minutes. I really appreciate the questions we've had. It's just been so easy. I didn't even have to bring up the topics I was thinking about talking about. This is great. How important is it to get weightlifting shoes? I do my squats and deadlifts in socks, but maybe I'm missing out. I think that's totally fine in socks. The main point of a weightlifting shoe is to flatten the surface that you're standing on. So unlike a running shoe, which has that drop from high to low, that flat weightlifting shoe is stable. It's really firm, and it has usually like wider, more sharp edges to really keep you on a platform. I do know there's some things with heel lifts and stuff that help you really target your glutes in a deadlift, stuff like that. I really believe in being the most just authentic to your actual body you can. I think that pays off the most as you apply all of your strength training to running and lifestyle and how you move and everything. I think barefoot is totally great. Okay. What point can more speed pay off in reducing impact shock to the body that causes pain over a long run, 15 to 25 miles? Would 9-minute mile versus 10 be much better for pain? I think I'm understanding this right. Basically, if you speed up, by how much can you speed up to make it help on the body so you're not feeling that impact as much? I talk a lot about this with cadence. So not even necessarily how fast you're going, but the faster you pick up your feet with your hips still forward, the less time you're going to land on each step. So that is a really, really big one you'll notice on hips and low back. When you're slogging along and you are almost shuffling and bent over and you're just kind of killed, it's like the end of the marathon, whatever. You are landing with a lot of force and angle on each step. So you're sitting into your hip, you're probably arching into your low back a little bit, shoulders are rounded forward. That is a heavy, hard step each time you do it. If you're miles from the finish line still, that's a long way of running poorly. If you have quick cadence, and this can happen even when you're tired, I always tell you guys, think about even for 10 seconds at a time, picking the feet up in the middle of a tough run. If you're tired, just pick it up a little bit quicker and you'll feel how much lighter on your feet and body you are. And it's because you are not taking that extra time to sink into that deeper angle, falling into that hip or that low back. So you actually don't hit that bad position because you're getting your foot back off the ground quick enough. As far as over a long run, once you're starting to get many hours you're out there running for, Obviously, impact is going to be impact, and it's really nice on like a dirt trail or sand or something. You just feel so different. My first 100 was on almost all pavement, and my second was on dirt the whole time, and my body was light years different after the dirt one. I was so much better off. I was like walking the day after, basically. So huge difference there. Is 175 versus 165 cadence significant? I can do both. I would say, yeah, upping the cadence if it feels comfortable to do so. Aim for 175 for sure. 180 is still, I think, a number that we kind of just pulled out of our ass, but it's a good goal, but it shouldn't come at the expense of everything else. So I think 175, if that feels comfortable, definitely do it. Hi, Holly. I was a big runner, got injured, then my hamstring and calves got tendinopathy. Haven't run in a few years. Can I recover? Thanks. I would say yes. Obviously, this is going to be majorly impacted by what your doctor says and what's been looked at as far as like if you've had MRIs, X-rays, etc. I would say that starting from a place of how long you can move forward on your feet in a walk or on an incline, starting with that, getting your heart rate up, but feeling like it's a run itself and treating it as a workout would be a good starting point. So you're not going for a run yet, but you're just walking for a specific period of time or going upstairs or an inclined treadmill for a specific period of time and seeing how the body does with that. Anytime you guys have a setback or you feel sick or get sick or have something major happen to your body and you're rebuilding and it feels so drastically different from the point you were at before, just remember that the sooner you accept what's going on and just start from where you're at and treat everything as seriously as you used to treat a long run, it will feel better. I remember any injury I've ever had, I still created a system and a schedule for myself that week of training. Even if it was like you're doing 20 minutes of stretching or you're going to go 15 minutes walk and then come back and stretch, whatever. It was still on the calendar like a workout. And it wasn't treated as less than just because it was different from when I wasn't injured. Because again, what does that do for us? We have to keep moving forward. And the faster you want to get there, you just have to accept and adjust. And that's the best way to do it. So don't get hung up on what was and just keep moving forward. And if it's too much to go for 15 minutes, try for 10. If walking is too much, see if you can do stationary bike. Just start to get those muscles working again in the endurance way. All right. Should we go for heart rate in the heat runs? Yes, I would definitely say that's a good place to look at your heart rate to see how hard it's working. Once again, once you adjust and it feels more adapted and you kind of know what to expect and your body knows what to expect, you should find that your heart rate comes back down a bit and you find that middle ground maybe more familiar to your winter or fall long run heart rates. Use your heart rate to adjust your speed. So if you feel like you're working really hard and you look down and the heart rate says you're working really hard, dial it back so that majority of that run is actually happening at the output level you would normally expect for that level of run. Doing things just for the sake of the number on the watch or whatever it used to look like in cooler temperatures doesn't pay off as quickly as we'd like it to. So you're better off kind of bringing it down a bit. And then once you feel adjusted, you can push that speed again. Hopefully you'll find a nice level ground where your heart rate's maybe a little elevated because it is hot, but you've also found a way to breathe through that. All right, guys, I think I'm going to wrap this up here. We will do this again. I really, really appreciate you being here, for asking me questions. Hopefully I didn't say too much. And I will see you guys in the next one. Let me know what else I can cover on the channel. And I will see you guys soon. Bye.